What is the most a dollar has ever gotten you? My great-grandma used to give all of her great-grandchildren $1 every time she saw us. It was a sweet gesture. And all of us great-grandchildren would love seeing her and enjoying the free money. She's recently been moved to a nursing home due to the risk of falling because her body is extremely weak. She's 95. I moved in with my boyfriend in August and went through my things while I packed. I found, concealed in a child's Bible, $1 wrapped in a note which read, "Dear baby, smile away. I can't wait until you're born. Here's your first dollar. Make sure mommy keeps it. I love you very much." A few weeks later, my mom, sisters and I went to visit her in the home. As my mom is her primary caretaker, I pulled the dollar from my pocket and read the note aloud. My great-grandma's eyes lit up and she beamed. "Oh wow, look at that," she said. "I'm glad mommy didn't spend it all. It was a pretty priceless moment." $92. Worked a coat check at an auction and we weren't supposed to have a tip jar. Well, someone placed an empty glass on the counter and eventually someone else thought it was a tip jar and started tipping. I said nothing. It got so full that I had to empty it. And then people no longer tipped because it was just an empty cup. So I put $1 back in, which made people assume it was a tip jar again, and then the tips came flowing again. Second wave of tips made $92. So putting $1 back in made me $92. I regret absolutely nothing. This is psychology. My sister learned this in class and used it when she worked a concession stand one summer. She threw $1 in and customers started tipping. Is that why every tip jar has a bunch of loose change and a single lone dollar? Did this thing with Scouts where we were given a quid to buy something with and then had to try and swap it for something better. Ended up with one of those VR headsets you put your phone in. A pair of glasses with a fake nose attached. More perfume sticks than any rational group of 16-year-olds could ever need. And a poster for a musical happening in the town that week. A friendship, to clarify. I live in Europe and we actually don't have dollars here, duh. When I came back from New York I had some dollars left and had them in my wallet still for a long time. Even when I forget about them from time to time. Once I was talking to a girl I met and started talking about America. She had never been there and I remembered that I had $1 in my wallet. I gave it to her and she was really happy, still talking to her to this day. Only a bit less than we used to, but safe to say I can call her a friend of mine. $1 for a friendship is definitely worth it. I bought a cookie for $1 at a bake sale. Didn't really want it later on. Gave it to a lady I worked with. She loved me for it. I was her favorite after that. That lady was my whole of a boss. Best dollar ever. A wife. I signed up for a river tour in a foreign country. It cost me an extra $1 to ride in the first boat leaving, didn't want other boats in the way of my photos. Met someone on that boat who later introduced me to her cousin. Been married 8 years. McChicken with mac sauce. Didn't get charged for the mac sauce. Beautiful. Lived in Oregon for a while with no sales tax. Nice to be able to go in with a $1 bill and walk out with a McChicken. I bought a McDonald's burger for this homeless guy near my old job. The guy was grateful, so he taught me how to make origami cranes and we became friends. Fast forward follow-up. He got back on his feet and now has a nice apartment and a really annoying yappy dog. Teaches craft classes at a local community center. A full evening's entertainment. I'd bet my friend $1 he wouldn't break into our university's football stadium. He did, but he did so right in front of a security guard, who then proceeded to chase him around. Flashlight waving the whole time. In full view of the rest of us outside a fence. This chase went on for probably 5 minutes. Through the stands and across the field. My buddy came flying out a different fence. But ripped his pants open in the process, sharp top to the chain link. So he was then running down the street away from a frustrated security guard while giving said guard the full moon. If unintentionally. Anyways, that led to getting beers while watching cop cars drive around the neighborhood slowly. I can only assume looking for a guy with Noah to his pants. Totally worth $1. I won $40 off of a $1 scratcher once. That was an awesome surprise. I used to work at a motel doing the night audit. There was a Papa John's across the street. And in a "I scratch your back you scratch mine" agreement they would deliver me a 10-inch pizza for $1 as often as I liked. I would tip $1 to the driver. And suggest Papa John's to any patrons looking for a bite to eat. Smart Papa John's franchisee right there. When I was 16, my aunt and uncle wanted to give me an old hand-me-down car that both my cousins used when they first got their licenses. But because of tax purposes, it made more sense to sell the car to me. I bought my first car for $1. $1 is about 50 pesos in the Philippines. Enough to buy a pack 24 PCs of ice popsicles several decades ago. During summer breaks, I'd buy a pack and sell per piece to our neighborhood kids. I'd restock from my initial capital plus earnings until the new school year starts and I'd earn about 500 pesos. Bought an interesting looking silk blouse at a pay-by-weight Goodwill outlet. $1.99 per pound. So was less than $1. Technically, since it weighed mere ounces. Turned out to be rare vintage Versace. Sold it for around $700. Nice. A hell of a come up. I'm huntin'. When I was in high school, I lived near a grocery store that sold packs of 10 cookies for $1. On the few occasions I had $1 to spare, my parents were very reluctant to give me money unless it was for school. My favorite thing to do was go there after school, sports practice. Buy a pack, and eat them on the swings at the nearby playground. A couple years ago, I was back home for the holidays and decided to recreate the tradition for old time's sake. To remember a simpler time in my life. At this point, I was late in college with a steady job. Thus, I could easily afford to spend $1. I went to the same store. Bought the same type one always did. Located the same swing in the same park I always sat on. And prepared for a nostalgia overload. And let me tell you, the cookies were terrible. If you have the means, treat yourself better than 10-cent cookies. I don't know if this counts. But I went to a local casino a few years ago and I was down to my last $2. I was halfway out the door defeated, but I walked by a row of cheap slots. I found a 20-line game at 1 penny per line. So I put the last of my money in the machine and I had a decision to either bet 20 cents, 40 cents, 60 cents, 80 cents, $1 or $2. I only had enough money in there for one spin at max bet. But I kinda wanted to make what little money I had last. I decided at 40 cents a spin. To win the jackpot on this machine, you needed to get the top symbol, which was a race car I think, across an entire line for it to hit. The reels are spinning. It felt like slow motion. The 5 race cars landed across the center line. Some old guy sitting next to me who had been playing there starts freaking out. You just hit the jackpot. I got really excited. But then the money stopped counting after $80. Turns out you needed to be playing max bet $2 a spin in order to trigger the jackpot. Instead I won $80 off a 40-cent wager. That's still a 20% return. Nice. Okay. To preface this, we grew up really poor and every now and then we would go to this cheap store where everything is expired and my mom would let me and my siblings, there's 4 of us, have $1 to spend and so we would try to make it count and I think the most I ever got was a sucker. A Tootsie Roll, an apple juice box, and 8 gumballs. 100 Swedish fish. My local public pool sold them by the penny when I was a kid. My mom would send us in with enough money for admission. And if we were lucky enough that she gave a large bill to break for change, we'd go to the concession stand. Treats at home were rather scarce. So I cherished any candy I could get my hands on at the pool. It's one of my sweetest memories. In a literal and figurative sense. A rather bossy loud woman came into our shop to talk to my brother. My 6-year-old nephew told her she needed to leave so he could finish his homework. She laughed and left. I gave my nephew $1 for getting her to leave. I didn't tell him why he got the $1. Black Friday, the local animal shelter has a special any black dog or cat for a $1. Nephew buys a dog with his $1. So $1. 1. Got rid of an annoyance 2. Saved a dog's life 3. Gave my nephew a great pet 4. Annoyed the S out of my brother because he really didn't want another dog at the house. Played a game at a fundraiser that had £1 entry. Had to slide the coin as close to the bottle as possible. Ended up winning 1.5 liters of brand vodka. The following weekend me and some friends went camping for a few days. Safe to say that bottle went to good use. TLDR, a wife. 3 beautiful children and frankly my life as I know it. Story time, back in junior high. I liked a girl and flirted with her quite a bit. One time, during a band trip, we stopped at a gas station and she bought me a pack of gum. I tried to pay her back $1 but she refused. So, I slipped the $1 in her pocket. She then slipped the dollar in my backpack and so began the back and forth with the $1 bill. We found silly ways to give it back and forth. I mailed it to her house. She stuffed it in a gum wrapper and offered me a piece. I then decided that I would ask her out on this $1. I wrote, "Will you go out with me?" on it and put it in a note and gave it to her. She said yes, of course. It would be a terrible story otherwise. I suppose. About 4 years later, I still had the same dollar kept away. On our anniversary, I wrote, "Will you marry me?" on the bottom of the dollar. We have been married for 15 years and have 3 awesome kids. We still have that dollar stored away. When I was very young, around 6, I think, I was sitting on a curb trying and failing to play my new toy guitar. When an old man put a dollar bill at my feet, I was absolutely flabbergasted and tried to give it back to him. But he explained he was tipping me. I was then introduced to the wonderful and lucrative world of busking, from which I have received lots of enjoyment in cash in recent years. I have a friend who put like $1.50 into a CSGO skin jackpot back when CSGO gambling was a thing. He probably had less than 1% chance of winning, but he won the whole thing. Like $100 to $200 of skins. So what did he do next? He put all of his winnings into a coin flip. 50-50 chance of either losing everything or coming out with double. He won. Seems like any rational person would stop there. But he did it again. He bet all $200 plus in another coin flip. And won again. If he had lost either of those coin flips he would have been back where he started before entering the jackpot. At that point he finally decided to chill out a bit now that he had $400 worth of skins. He spent the next few days doing coin flips for hundreds of dollars, not all of what he had, but parts of it, and eventually ended up with $1,000 plus worth of skins. I knew where he was doing coin flips and would sometimes watch the guy put like $400 on the line. He was betting during class, lol. He got greedy. Though, he did bigger bets and didn't slow down. About a day after his inventory had reached $1,000 in value he told me he had nothing left. He lost it all the same way he won it. All of this happened over the course of 2 to 4 days. What a wild ride that was, LMAO. Okay. The short version. We're drunk at a bar and my friend bets me $1 that I can't throw a dart and hit said dollar taped to the board above his head, a la William Tell. Of course, I miss, and stuck that dart to the hilt into his forehead. We're still drunk and after laughing and trying unsuccessfully to remove said dart. Off to the hospital. Drunk friend has a cute PA remove the dart in the ear. He proposes to said PA then and there. They wind up dating. They get married. Now, here's where it pays off for me. Destination wedding in Florida Keys. I am broke. Like, broke. Can't go. Sorry. Negative, he says. You shall be the best man. After all, my shitty dart throwing skills is why they met. So, they pay for me to spend a whole week hanging out in the Keys with the rest of the wedding party, and man, what a party for the wedding. Wedding was had. They are still married 20 years later. And yes, he still has the dart framed in their den. That's cute as F.